Yuriko, the Tiger's Shadow, versus Animar, Soul of Elements. Brainstorm in hand will hopefully get us into some lands. And we have Serum Visions to help us dig a little bit deeper as well, so Brainstorm first, I think. Swan Song counters an enchantment, instant or sorcery. Yeah, I think we do just want to Brainstorm. Well, we can hold up. Yeah, we can hold up the Swan Song anyway, because Brainstorm is an instant speed card. Animar Soul of Elements is pro-white and pro-black, a 1/1 in Teamer. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and creature spells that you cast cost a generic mana less to cast for each +1/+1 counter on it. Sylvan Ranger we're not too worried about, so we'll just fix our mana, hopefully. Alright, we'll throw the big spell and the ninja on top. And then I think it's time for a tutor. Underground Sea comes down, and what do we want to tutor for here? We could just Serum Visions and try and get into another land. It's potentially slow, but we'll draw into the big spell, so hopefully we can throw it back on top later on. Yeah, we are not wanting these yet. We want a land. At least we can hold up Swan Song this way. I doubt we're going in for Mystical Tutor. Looks like our opponent might be missing a land drop, which would be really good for us. Yuriko, the Tiger's Shadow, has Command and Ninjutsu of 2. We can swap out an unblocked attacking creature for Yuriko. It's a 1/3, and whenever a ninja we control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of our library, put it into our hand. Each opponent loses life equal to its CMC. Our opponent does not lose a land drop. Not too worried about Growing Rights of Itlamok. It does potentially put a really good card into their hand, like Wormcoil Engine. Well, we can counter the Wormcoil Engine because... No, not Artifact. Okay. Okay, missing a land again. I think at this point we have to use Demonic Tutor for a Mana Crypt. Or what we could do actually is kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We'll go for Ornithopter. It's slow, but if we want to get down Yuriko anyway, then we can try and get into a land yet again and get Yuriko into play at the same time. That means we'll have a couple of draws next turn. Down comes Animar, Soul of Elements. There are some infinite combos with this thing, so see what type of Animar deck it is. 6 cards in our opponent's hand. We finally get into another land, which is great. We will swing in with Ornithopter and wait for blockers to be declared. Our opponent can't block anything. And we'll go Dimir into Command and Ninjutsu. Throw back the Ornithopter, replace it with Yuriko, and then we'll put something on top with Mystical Tutor. We're going for Consign to Oblivion here, because hopefully we'll be able to bounce Animar with that. It'll also deal some points of damage to our opponent as well. We flip over the Consign to Oblivion, and that is 5, 6, 7 damage to our opponent. We'll get down the Ornithopter. So if our opponent deals with Yuriko, it's actually of some benefit to us. Okay, Scavenging Ooze comes down. We're not really worried about Scavenging Ooze. I don't know, do we have Snapcaster Mage? Yeah, we have Snapcaster Mage in the deck. It's not imperative that we keep that in play. Phyrexian Metamorph is... well, it depends what it copies here. Might go for an Ornithopter. No, they go for their own Yuriko. To get their own card draw on the go, I imagine. We might as well block a point of damage, and then we'll see what our opponent reveals. Oh, no, it doesn't trigger because it's not a ninja. Yeah, completely forgot there. So Yuriko needs to see damage from a ninja, and neither of our opponents' things are ninjas, but they do flip Growing Rites of Itlamok into a Gaia's Cradle, so that will tap for 4 mana as it stands now. Get another land drop, which you won't hear me complaining about. Gonna swing in here, and we'll get down the Mistblade Shinobi and bounce a creature back to its owner's hand. And this kills 2 birds with 1 stone. We're also having a ninja deal combat damage here. So that will trigger Yuriko and get us another card. Now what card it'll be, we don't know. We'll bounce... yeah, we'll allow our opponent to hit us with their Yuriko. We reveal Conspiracy, which is 5 extra points of damage to our opponent. Get down the Ornithopter again. And I think we just want to hold up... yeah, we just want to hold up some instants here. Okay, going for Scavenging Ooze. Well, I won't auto-yield just in case we ever want to respond to a Scavenging Ooze trigger. Or activation, I should say. It's not a trigger. Getting rid of everything except Brainstorm from our graveyard. Glen Alandra Archmage is tricky. That means we can't use Ornithopter Shenanigans anymore, and it also means that they can... yeah, they can counter our stuff. We have quite a few non-creature spells that we want to make use of. We'll try and bounce the Glen Alandra Archmage. We'll block with Yuriko. We actually don't care if that thing if it goes back to the command zone. No matter how many times this goes back to the command zone, it will always cost us 2. We don't have to pay command attacks on the ninjutsu effect. Now then, let's try and bounce a Glen Alandra Archmage and see if they allow it. If they pay for this, then they can't do it during the next turn. We can actually wipe the board here. All creatures get -2/-2 until the end of the turn. Wipe the board except for both our Yurikos. I think we have to do that whilst our opponent doesn't have blue mana. There we go, and then we'll offer up the trade to our opponent. Like I say, we don't mind Yuriko going back into the command zone. And they do decide to trade with us, so that is fine. We can go for a Cloud of Fairies next turn. Oh, I'm thinking that it's a 1/1. Yeah, that's my mistake. So we've just given our opponent a free swing in with Yuriko, which was, yeah, a poor mistake. For some reason I had it in my head, because I could see the 1/1 there and I didn't see the minus symbol. Yeah, so it's actually a -1 power and 1 toughness. So we're giving our opponent a free swing here, which is, yeah, luckily they just get into a land. That's a land that they didn't have before. 5 cards in hand. We know one of them is the Bloodstained Mire. But it did encourage them to swing in with their Yuriko, so if they don't get down a creature here, which I imagine they will, yeah, they get down Animar. and their Bloodstained Mire. We can bounce the Animar with Cyclonic Rift and then swing in next turn and flip something off the top. We're not getting into any of our top deck shenanigans. The only thing we've done thus far, I think, is Mystical Tutor. And here is, if a spell or ability causes you to discard it, you put it onto the field instead. When it enters, you gain 4 life. It is a 4/4 for 4 mana. Well, we can definitely get down Cloud of Fairies because that untaps lands when it enters. And it is an evasive creature for us. And then why don't we try to go wide on our opponent? We'll go for Mutavault. We will bounce the big creature. Hope that our opponent doesn't get some big crazy combo going off next turn that makes us regret not bouncing the Animar. Although they could easily get down Animar again next turn for the 3 mana, so if they have something like that, then it's probably something that they can get down regardless. The Mutavault hits, and that does count as a ninja because it's all creature types. A really good man land for this deck. We just flip into a land, but it is a land that we didn't have before. We were struggling on lands. We've gotten off to a pretty slow start. And we're not having the best of luck with manipulating the top of our deck. I don't think a Conspiracy would be terrible next turn because that means that we can just swing in with Cloud of Fairies for the rest of the game as far as I'm concerned. In comes our opponent's Yuriko and the Animar. They reveal Soul of the Harvest. They dealt 6 damage to us with that one. That's a really good flip with Yuriko. They still have that Wormcoil in hand. They go for the Balos to gain themselves some life. Oh, and Thragtusk as well. Yeah, some really interesting combinations going on here with Animar. Glad to see that it's not just... A lot of times people will play creatures that bounce other creatures, or creatures that can bounce themselves, and just keep recasting them to dump +1/+1 counters onto Animar, which personally I find a bit on the boring side, but this is much more interesting board state that our opponent's got going on. Kitesail Freebooter is too little too late, I think. How about we go for... Yeah, I think we might have to go Sakashima Student onto the Wormcoil engine. It's not the best, but I think that's pretty much all we've got here. We'll deal 6 damage to our opponent with that, and it's lifelink damage as well. And then we'll flip a card. It's going to be a nice big one. It's actually a 1-drop apparently. Then let's go for... How much damage does our opponent have on us? 12. 17. Yeah, they've got more than enough to lay down some pain on us. Well, we'll go for Cloud of Fairies because it is effectively free. And then we'll go for Viscera Seer so that we can sack that Wormcoil engine. Get some Death Touchers, well, a Death Toucher and a Lifelinker. And do we want to hold up Swan Song? I don't really think Swan Song does anything for us. I think we have to go for the Kitesail Freebooter. We'll see what our opponent has in hand. Huh. Well, that's something, isn't it? Looks like they win next turn then. Kraytooth Behemoth comes down and smashes our faces in for who knows how much damage. Okay, for some reason playing Ulamog. If our opponent plays around with us too much here, I'm just going to concede I always want to give my opponent the chance of, right, okay, you have no reason to play a Lotus Cobra. So we will not give our opponent the satisfaction of swinging in. We were tapped out, and all we had to do there was... they might have been playing around a Force of Will, something like that, but Ulamog coming down would have won them the game anyway. All those lands compared to our, what are now 3 lands, yeah, they should have just gone for Kraytooth there, but they won fair and square, and they actually recovered quite well from a board wipe and some bounce effects there. We were just treading water for too long. It's up to turn 9 now, and I think some of the life linking, life gain effects, I think they gained 8 life from that 4-drop, whatever it was called. That my screen has gone blank now, so I'm having to go off memory. Magic Online flicks straight back to the lobby for some reason sometimes, but yeah, I think the life gain might have helped them there, but we were just too slow in that game anyway, so maybe a little bit of tinkering to be done, but perhaps wasn't the best hand to start off with. That was Yuriko, the Tiger Shadow, versus Animar. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.